Privilege, a word we commonly associate with white people. But everywhere around the world, there is a privileged group and there's a marginalized group. And there's a pattern which is associated with these privileged groups that exist all over the world. When the marginalized are brought up, they simply can't take it, or they simply forget they were privileged in the first place. The privileged think they're better because they think they're the product of merit, when in fact they're the product of privilege. Today, the privileged group I will be talking about are the Brahmins from India, the highest caste in the caste system. And when you think of Brahmin, think of priest or a priest descendant. If you want to learn more about the caste system, watch the video that pops up in the corner. But going back to the main point, I would say Brahmins are one of the most privileged groups in the world. Brahmins, only making up 5% of the Indian population, had exclusive rights that allowed them to rise above the other people of India. The true reign of Brahmins started when India transitioned from Vedic Hinduism, aka ancient Hinduism, to modern Hinduism, which is also referred to as Brahminism. Modern Hinduism is referred to as Brahminism because it's a religion meant to uplift Brahmins and Brahmins only. I'll read some exclusive rights that Brahmins had in Hindu society, which increased their privilege and uplifted them. They were the only people with the rights to learn the Vedas and to teach them. They were the only people with the rights to perform rituals, which led to Brahmin priests monopolizing priesthood. They were the only people with the right to interpret Dharma, which is kind of like law and morality. They were the only people with the right to receive alms and gifts, unlike other lower castes like Shudras who were only meant to give gifts and not to take them. They were the only people with the right to be exempt from military service, labor, and land taxes. They were the only people with the right to land and temple patronage. I'll read out what I mean. In many cases, land grants and temple endowments were exclusively given to Brahmins. Another thing you have to remember is many ancient temples banned Shudras and Dalits, aka lower castes and outcasts, from even entering the temples. And the most important right that Brahmins had, which allowed their privilege to last even to this day, is the right to social privilege and untouchability enforcement. In Hinduism, Brahmins are considered ritually pure. And if Brahmins were closer to lower castes, it's considered they'll get polluted and not supposed to happen. This horrible system enforced strict rules on touch, speech, dress, and movement, which all favored Brahmins. Now that you understand the privilege of Brahmins, I'll show you how certain groups of Brahmins still cling on to their false sense of superiority, which came because of the privilege they had. And unfortunately, this privilege still lasts to this day because Brahmin supremacy and Hinduism are very interlinked. I was scrolling through YouTube and I stumbled across a video. The video's title was basically why Hindu Brahmins are so successful. Anyone with a basic understanding of Indian culture and Hindu culture and caste culture in India will know, because they're the privileged group, and obviously the privileged group will be more successful than the unprivileged groups. Education was isolated to Brahmins and Brahmins only for thousands of years, with very few exceptions. That's the answer to the question why Hindu Brahmins are so successful. They come from the privileged class of people that existed in India. You don't need to make a whole video on it, it's just common sense. I clicked on the video, but I didn't really watch it because I didn't want to sit through 8 minutes of Brahmin propaganda. I'd rather not puke on my iPad. Even though I didn't watch the video, something did catch my eye. The comments on this video were just like, I don't know, it's crazy. The comments, simply put, were just casteist, bigoted, and plain stupid. Let's read some of these comments, and warning, you will be subject to Brahmin supremacy, so please don't throw up. Let's read the first comment. They study well. He's referring to Brahmins. They know the importance of education, and their clean habits make them work hard and smart. The clean part of this comment has some casteist undertones. Remember earlier in the video I said Brahmins are considered ritually pure? Well, the opposite also applies. Lower castes were seen as dirty, especially Dalits, aka the untouchables. They were seen as so tainted that even if a Dalit shadow touched a Brahmin, that means something really bad happened. This type of comment I don't really want to focus on, but I'm pointing this comment out because you can see the casteist undertones in it, and casteism does not have to be out in the open. I just want to show you guys casteism can be very subtle. Okay, we'll read the next comment. Fun fact, 3 out of 4 Nobel Prize winners in science from India/Indian origin are Brahmins. Many of them seek knowledge for knowledge's sake, a rare quality, but they're often misunderstood in India. This goofy commenter does not have enough brain cells to realize that education and higher education is a rare quality in India because education and higher education was isolated to Brahmins for so long. Like I said in the beginning of the video, the privileged think they're better because they think they're the product of merit when they're just the product of privilege. This comment is pretty pathetic, but let's read it out loud. Brahmin don't do cry, never LARP for reservation. Only doing hard work, no reservation, no freebies, no scholarship, and also don't have so much wealth, but yet they are successful in their respective field because they believe in hard work. And yes, they are successful because of their mindset of POV, am not Brahmin. Opinions like this actually make me so mad. LARP for reservation, the fact he used LARP is just so insane. And if you don't know, reservation is basically affirmative action in India for untouchables and lower castes to be pushed up because, again, education was robbed from them for thousands of years. Reservations in India are supposed to uplift the marginalized people. I love how bigoted people love to throw around the word reservations, but when will they realize that Brahmins had 100% reservation for thousands of years? Without reservation, how will people robbed of their human rights for thousands of years compete with the people that had the best rights for thousands of years? Like, it's plain stupid and crazy, and there's no common sense behind it. The last part's so pathetic when he says, I'm not Brahmin. After all that glaze, he says, I'm not Brahmin. But I don't really trust him because you know how some Indian accounts, this happens a lot in India, people pretend to be someone else. There are posts where like Indian men will be pretending to be Israeli women and say like, we love India and all this. But if an actual non-Brahmin said this, this is actually so sad. These comments are way too bigoted. I think I'll stop here. But trust me, the rest of the comments all are glazing Brahmins for just working harder, for being, more acclimated, more attracted to education. They're just ignoring the fact and ignoring the history. They're ignoring the basic fact that they had the most privilege out of anyone in India. No, but they want to claim the reason they're more successful is by hard work, their stupid purity. That's another annoying thing. And it's other random nonsense. But what if you point out the truth and how history is to those bigoted Brahmins? What will they do? They'll say something along these lines. I know I said I won't read out another comment, but I have to read this one out. In this generation, Dalits have access to education, right or wrong. Even with all the resources provided to them, they still rely on reservation. Let's take a look at this Cass's face before we shut down his argument. Let's also listen to his music before we shut down his argument.
Yes, sir! I'm at the top of the mountain.
I don't know what's worse, his music or his opinions. He might be the biggest idiot in that comment section, and that has to be an achievement because that comment section is full of goofies. Going back to the bigoted comment. If you think thousands of years of 100% reservation can be undone with 77 years of partial reservations, there's not a bigger buffoon than you. But the best way to shut down this type of argument is through a comparison. If we take a look at all the American presidents, we notice a common pattern. They're all white, older men. African Americans got their full rights through the Civil Rights Act in 1964 and their voting rights from the Voting Rights Act in 1965. But America has only had one black president. Why is that? American society is being dominated by white people. Why is that? Why are all the Nobel Prize winners in America and from America all white people? Why is that? Why when you go to a nice neighborhood, why are most of those people white? Why is that? Why do African Americans on average live in worse neighborhoods? Why is that? Looking at this pattern, should we come to the conclusion that, white older men are better suited to become presidents because they're the superior leaders? And from the other things I brought up, should I say white people are superior than black people because on average they're more successful? No, that's like the most bigoted and stupid conclusion you can come to. Almost like rights on paper does not actually represent society. Just because you write down, these people can't be discriminated against, does that mean those people will stop getting discriminated against? On paper you write down you can't murder people. Does that stop people from murdering people? No. Societal barriers stood strong for African Americans after 1965, and they still stand strong to this day. Same thing applies to Dalits. Yes, on paper they might have rights, but that does not stop people from committing terrible things to them. That does not stop them from facing discrimination. Just because in law it says, society cannot discriminate against said group of people, doesn't mean society will actually stop discriminating against said group of people. Even my family has faced discrimination when we go to India. When we go to India for like 2 months at a time, so obviously we will rent a place, but finding rent as a Dalit is so hard. They're willing to give you rent, but as soon as you review your caste, they don't want to give you rent anymore. I have the amazing privilege of living in America, but I can only imagine how bad it would be if I lived in India. Every 18 minutes, a hate crime is committed against a Dalit. Another Brahmin propaganda point bigots will bring up is they'll say that Brahmins win the most awards. If they win the most awards, then they're superior, right? Let me read you the stats. Indian men, Brahmin or not, account to 0.9% of Nobel Prize winners with 8 winners. Black men account to 1.2% of Nobel Prize winners with 12 winners. Are black men superior to Indian men because they have more Nobel Prizes? No! Last but not least, white men account to 90+% of Nobel Prize winners with 900+ winners. Are white men superior to black men who are superior to Indian men on the Nobel Prize win count? Obviously not. That's just not how it works. Even though this is the same logic a bigoted Brahmin might use, they'll never bring up stuff like this because it destroys their entire structure of belief. What they want to do is tell other Indians, other castes, we're more superior. But as soon as they go global, as soon as they go international, they'll realize all the points they use will not apply because other races will be seen as superior to them, and they simply can't take that. They just want to live in their echo chamber, which is India, and they want to be seen as dominant and superior. I'll summarize my beliefs right here. I will never say everything a white person has achieved is because of their privilege. I will never say everything a Brahmin has achieved is because of their privilege. I'll never say everything a black person or African American person has achieved is through DEI. I'll never say everything a Dalit has achieved is through reservation. However, if someone tries to claim that white people are superior, I'll obviously point out their privilege because that's the right thing to do. If someone tries to paint Brahmins as superior, I'll obviously point out their privilege because that's the right thing to do. I think Periyar, a great social reformer, summarizes this mindset the best through an amazing quote. If a larger country oppresses a smaller country, I'll stand with the smaller country. If the smaller country has a majoritarian religion that oppresses minority religions, I'll stand with the minority religions. If the minority religion has caste and one caste oppresses another caste, I'll stand with the caste being oppressed. In the oppressed caste, if there's an employer who oppresses an employee, I'll stand with that employee. If the employee goes home and oppresses his wife, I'll stand with that woman. This is a mindset I think everyone should have. This is what people should do. Again, no one should hate on white people because of their privilege. No one should hate on Brahmins because of their privilege. But if certain Brahmins or certain white people try to do Brahmin supremacy or white supremacy, you should point it out. You should point out that what they're doing is wrong. No group of humans are superior than one another. And if anyone tries to claim that, majority of the time, they come from a privileged background. They are simply blind to their own privilege. And if they're blind, you should show them their privilege because that's what great people do. That's what great people like Ambedkar and Periyar did to fight the oppression that they faced throughout their lives. They gave rights to millions of people just by speaking out and just by fighting the system that promotes supremacy of certain groups. White supremacy and Brahmin supremacy are very similar. If you see someone peddling this backward mentality, you should call them out on it. Thank you, and I hope you support the Blue Panther mission. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, like the video, and comment. And if you really want to, please follow my LinkedIn page. Thank you.